Welcome to Chili's.
Yeah. Yeah, or as I should say. Welcome to the Positively Awesome Wrestling Podcast with yours truly, the Drip King, and Albert, and Drip Prince with the little Orange Cassidy cameo, whatever we're going to call it. No tidings this week. He is on vacation, so he's out living, enjoying life. Good for him and all that good jazz. But we are here, and guess what, everybody? We have an open forum. We're just going to talk about what it is we want to talk about. Whatever comes up, something pops up in the chat, throw it in there, and I would talk about it because that's where we're at right now. But Albert, I just rambled there a little bit. How you been, man? What's up? Tell everybody what it is.
I'm Albert Albanese, and I don't have a catchphrase. So, let's just bounce off the intro, right? Hey, fun week this week in wrestling. A very much less controversial week this week in wrestling. A much different tone from on this show this week than last week. So things are more of a positive. So,
what up, Cameron? Thank you for joining. Hello, Miss Amanda. How are you doing? Looking good. So, yeah, there was no. I picked last week or the week before. I picked that was like I'm done feeding into paying attention to the drama and rumors. So I picked a great week to do that because I missed out on most of the whole. I can just imagine what kind of if it filtered its way to me, I know it had to be bad. This week, nothing. So I'm like,
yeah,
this is kind of new to me because I'm not feeding into this stuff. So I gotta really get creative sometimes. And I'm not even gonna lie, I wasn't creative this week, but that's good because I do my best work on the fly. That's what I feel like. It's the most fun. So I'll just ask you first. Your favorite part of the week? What did we get? Don't you dare take mine, son.
It's hard not to, right? So I'll go in a different.
You did,
but I'll go in a different direction for that reason because I want to talk about that anyway. There was a couple of things that stuck out to me this week. I think that most of all, and this isn't. I mean, just a a little thing. A Cody-less Monday Night Raw felt a little weird, right? It did feel like it for a little bit. It lacked that. It wasn't a bad thing. But the Judgment Day, man. Again, it seems like every week I come back to just the Judgment Day, and now there's intrigue again. Did JD prove his way into the Judgment Day? Dom came out and interfered to help JD. JD then rescued him and then told Dom, "Get lost, dude. I got this," and proceeded to take an ass whooping for Dom. I don't know. Given a custom briefcase to Damian Priest, a lot of things trending in the positive way to seeing JD being a member of JD.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Oh, what up? Hey, yo, what up, Nick? Nick, good to see you, bud. Thank you for joining. I do see him joining. My only thing is I see someone leaving, though. I don't see it staying. Who that is, I don't know. And I guess that's fun because I can just sit here and think of all these different scenarios where, it's Damian Priest, it's Finn Balor, it's Dominic. I already came up with one of those the other day. But I like the intrigue in it. Honestly, if he was to join and no one left, that would be just as cool. I would like to see him do that. I think that would be cool too because they could really do more.
He could be almost like that. In a way, the way the Bloodline treated Sammy. Take a shot here every once in a while. Yeah. We need a guy to sacrifice up to just take an ass kicking for us. We'll throw him in there, right? He wants to be with us that bad. He'll do it for us.
Yeah, and even if he's like losing, he still puts a hurting on people. Like he's a good I hate to use the word jobber in this situation, but he's the job guy of the faction. That's what his role would be. But it's not like he's just going in there rolling over and dying. He puts hurt on people. So he thinks Priest leaves after he cashes in and JD joins to fill in the void. You think Priest is cashing in that soon, though?
And that would mean confession on Roman, right?
Oh man, yeah.
Why would he leave? What he would he's just going to cash in and leave the Judgment Day on Raw, and they're just going to be on the same show. And what is he going to turn face? I mean, they need more heels right now. It seems like everybody's a face at this moment.
Yeah. So what is up, Courtney? Thank you for joining. Tidy is on vacation, so he's enjoying life. We're gonna let that happen. He'll be cashing on Seth. Even so, how does he leave as a heel and Judgment Day still be heels unless Judgment Day is just breaking up altogether? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd watch it to see how it unfolded for sure, but I just don't know how it would work. Priest cash in. When do we think Priest is going to cash in on Seth?
I mean, they teased it last week. This week on Raw. Rhea and Damian were standing by the monitor and we were watching Seth get beat up by Nakamura, and they both agreed, this wasn't the right time. I think that Nakamura gets a shot again. I think if Seth comes out the victor there, I think there's no way we're not going to get Damian Priest cash in. I could see it being at Survivor Series. I think it's a big enough, event for them to make a big deal out of Priest cashing in.
Yeah. I just don't know.
Neither do I.
Because they did do the intrigue, and then they kind of were like, no, not now. And the way they kind of added that in there kind of makes it look like they're moving on from Seth for a good bit. Kind of like, nah, let him go handle his business. We got other things to do.
Right.
And then we end up seeing him over on SmackDown. He's calling out the bloodline, and then he's working with the bloodline. And it's like, what do we got going on here? This is interesting. I do not in no way think he cashes in on Roman. That would be the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, seriously. The dumbest since theory.
But I am interested to see what they're doing with it over there, especially since we also saw them get confronted with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits.
Right.
The just different things that are happening, and evolving from other things. It's like a spider web of storylines that Triple H has kind of been really good at doing since he came over. I love it. I love it so much. And that's what we're getting here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Man, I forgot what we even started talking about. We just branched out just by talking about all the other stuff.
We started with Judgment Day, and then here we are on SmackDown.
JD and Judgment Day. That's right.
I think I know what your favorite.
For sure.
Wrestling is.
Yeah, because it's the only thing that really stuck out to me. Other than, again, as it comes to me, it'll pop back in my head. But the one thing that stuck out to me was Chad Gable and Gunther. Because I did see a few complaints about commercial breaks and everything, and it's like, God, stop it! It's a TV match. What do you expect? Right. And I like that they did it on TV because it makes it seem like, hey, we're not just phoning it in. We're gonna give you a reason to tune in on Monday nights, even though football season is coming up.
To the main event, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to give people like Chad Gable and Gunther opportunities to be like, hey, here's something new for you guys to enjoy in the main event. Let's see how it works. And it worked out beautifully. I know it seems crazy to give WWE credit for that, but they should, because for so long they weren't doing these things and they were getting crucified for it. Now, we just saw they're putting more emphasis. And Gunther's been being used like this for a minute. Because he was doing this on SmackDown. Every pay-per-view we got into, the main event going into that was going to be Gunther versus somebody. And using it now, just, again, not on a random, it is kind of a random Raw, but it's still cool. Because, again, it lets them know, we're not phoning it in. We know what we're doing. We're giving you matches to keep you intrigued. Sometimes it'll be storylines. Sometimes they give us good moments. And that's kind of what I want to transition to after this match. But, Chad freaking Gable, man. How long have we been missing out on this?
I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? And it's every week. And the thing is that we've watched an evolution of Chad Gable starting from like even WrestleMania and before that, where he's just slowly but surely building up and German suplexing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger dudes. But now we're getting to the point where he's having a regular old competitive match against Gunther where he's like a foot and a half taller and 50 pounds lighter, and he's tossing Gunther around like it's nobody's business. And I love that we're getting the side of Chad Gable. We're getting like this. It's almost like he's left the comedy behind, and he's almost like WWE's Taz. Like what they should have done with Taz when Taz was around, made him look like, okay, he's smaller in stature, but this dude's a killer. Yeah. Like he gets you into a submission, he gets you into a hold to suplex you. You're going for a ride.
So I'm glad you brought up he dropped the comedy stuff because the promo he cut on the talk, I don't know what these after shows things are called, but he cut the promo where he basically was like, yeah, it's all fun and games when I can do that because, I like to have a good time, but you made my daughter cry, and now I swear to God, I'm going to take that title from you. It is so damn... I watched it 3 or 4 times. It was fantastic. But it emphasizes how much... Because everybody hated the comedic side of Chad Gable, even though I loved it. I thought it was entertaining. The people who enjoyed the entertainment part of it were like... Or entertainment side of wrestling, all enjoyed it. But so many people were just clowning on it. Like, why are they treating him like this? Why are they treating him like this? And this is exactly why. Because for so long, we're like, what does he do? And then finally, that switch just flips, and we're all just like, oh, man, yes, this is the time. And then you want to rally behind him and get behind him. It's genius.
And Michael Cole called out on commentary on Raw. He was like, Gable even said, like, he did all that funny stuff to get his foot in the door, to get himself, like, get himself noticed so we can get to this point. Like, he pointed it out. Like, they're not shying away from it. Yeah, he was a little bit of a comedy character, but that was to get the audience behind him and give him, like, something to grasp onto. And then it's all of a sudden the people who don't know are like, whoa, this dude is not only just a good wrestler, he's an amazing wrestler. It's smart. WWE knows how to do things like this to get you more invested into a character, to get everybody invested, because not everybody knows. Even if you've watched Raw for however long, you forget that JR, somebody like Michael Cole. I say JR because he's the one that would probably harp on it. Like, he competed in the Olympics. Like, it's just not something we hear every week about Gable because he's so entertaining. We don't need to hear it.
I will get to this one after we move on from this because I think we get from with that one.
Yeah, I think so.
So I watched the Kurt Angle documentary finally that one just came out, so I wasn't behind on that one. It was the Cody one I was behind on. So I watched.
I'm the one who's behind on this one. Unfortunately, I really wanted to see that. I got to watch it.
The Kurt Angle one is phenomenal. My girlfriend didn't she watched them back in the day periodically, like most people did back in the late 90s and everything. Like, oh, wrestling, yeah, top. So, but she wasn't very big into it, and she never really got to enjoy Kurt Angle. And she was kind of getting to see him in his heyday in the documentary. And man, just like sitting back and watching it, and then I'm seeing what Chad Gable does. And I don't care if anybody wants to call me insane. He's good. Chad Gable is damn good at doing exactly what Kurt Angle did. I know the comparison. They're both they both are Olympic wrestlers. They both have amazing comedic timing, and it comes off so naturally that it's like, man, they can't be faking this. They are just that funny because they're so good at this. And for him to be compared to Kurt Angle is phenomenal. I know he has been for a while, but from head to toe, he's not the athlete. Kurt Angle was a freak of nature, but everything else, Chad Gable, head to toe, is Kurt Angle. Like, it's amazing.
It's crazy.
And then watching the match he had with Gunther, it wasn't about the big suplexes are cool and all that, but just him getting his ass whooped and then fighting back, and then him getting his ass whooped and then fighting back. It was a great story in the match. It wasn't the moves that sold it. It was the story they were telling. It was done.
Yeah.
And it made me mad when Chad Gable lost. Not because I knew my brain was like, Gunther's winning this match. But the story that they have been telling leading up into this match and the story they were telling in this match made me be like, man, if Chad Gable don't win this, my heart is going to break for this dude. Like, I legit am like, I'm invested at this point. And I got to thinking about this. They did this with Sami Zayn and Roman. And then they did this with the Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, first time they hugged, and then he kicked him. Where they've told such amazing story, like, I know I'll get shit for this, but using the word amazing, I don't care. Such amazing job at telling the story that I'm so emotionally invested that even though my head is saying, hey, dummy, you're wrong, I don't care because I'm just like, I want this to happen so damn bad. And for anybody that ever wants to ask me why I think WWE is better than AEW, that's my answer. Because I don't get that over there, and it's not a knock on them. This isn't tribalism. This is me. This is an answer that I finally came up with that I think is logical enough and should be acceptable enough because, man,
let's be fair. It's not like we never get that from AEW. We got that from the Adam Cole and MJF storyline.
We do get the stuff. I don't think it hits
just
hard.
Not as often as we do with WWE, and I completely agree with you.
For me personally, they don't hit as hard. Yeah, they just don't. And again, that's not a knock on them. They still do a great job of what they do, but that's specifically why, to me, WWE is better because they make me feel something, and they've done it more frequently this year than they've been able to do in quite some time. So again, I'm gonna give flowers to Triple H every chance I get.
I agree.
I love what the man has done. I did, and we've branched off from the Chad Gable thing again. But my point being,
let's circle it back around because I had 2 points that I wanted to make with it. You kind of brought up. It goes back to the idea of what we were talking about before with that comedy character. Because just imagine if WWE, the internet was around and this sort of a fan base was around during the time where Kurt Angle was, coming up. Kurt Angle was a goofball. He was a goober. He was like, he just was like.
I like wrestling little boys. Like he did some goofy ass shit.
Yeah, he was kind of dumb. Like they played on him being like just like this gullible, like, all right, the only thing I did was wake up in the morning and wrestle, and there's nothing else I've ever done in life. Kind of a character. Imagine that would have happened, back then. All the funny things that we see, if that would have happened now, people would have been complaining about it. Kurt Angle's an Olympic gold medalist. Why are they making him put on a silly cowboy hat? Because it's funny. That's why.
Humor is like the absolute best way to win someone over. I don't care what anyone says. It 100% is. You can make someone laugh. You're making them feel something that makes them feel better, and you're automatically like, okay, let's see what you got. And then when the shit gets serious, you're like, oh, yeah, this is my guy. No, it's so smart. It is so damn smart. And I literally, because I've been watching it with Chad Gable for like over a year now, where it's just like, they're just ruining him with this comedy. And it's like, no, they're not. To me, he was in a contention for match of the year last year in the tag team match against Seth, KO, and RK Bro. That was a match of the year candidate to me, and he was doing it while being a goofball. Like, man, I love the match though. It was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. Man,
so good. Got you so emotionally invested. That's the other thing. It's getting that emotionally invested in these characters. That's the one thing that when people talk about, the good deal for AEW is that they have this rotating roster where, somebody comes in for a couple of weeks and then, they come out and then, somebody else comes in. And that's what you lose. You lose the emotional connection to these characters because when they disappear off your TV for 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row, you forget just how good they made you feel. He is smart. They're going to say, okay, you know what? Chad Gable, we're going to put him on Raw every week. And even if it's just for a 30-second backstage segment with him giving an arm drag to Maxine, he's going to capitalize and make that the most entertaining 30 seconds on the show.
Great. The timing is exactly what I wanted to bring up is they start off by getting him 20 seconds. And he makes the most of it. And people like it. And the next thing you know, he's getting 35 seconds. And then, he's getting full-on segments. And then he's getting promos before his matches. And then, it's gradually growing. And, I hate to butt in, but that just came to me. And I wanted to hit that up, like, because that's something you notice, the natural progression of what that comedy character of his was able to do for him. It was brilliant.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So, from there, we move on to Nick's question. Who do you guys think is getting traded to SmackDown for Jey Uso, and why is it Cody? I'll tell you why it isn't Cody, because they just made that man front and center of their new Raw banner on WWE.com. They literally just changed it. So, it ain't Cody.
With Jay updated in there, too. I mean,
So that, unless they are going that far into rusiness. And if that's the case, thank you, WWE. I really appreciate you going the extra mile there. But I'll let you go first on this one too, man. Who do you think? Let's do this. Who do you think and who do you want?
Okay, that's interesting. Who do I think? I have a feeling that we're all going to get worked up and it's going to end up being The Miz. You know what I mean? Like that's what I really think. Like I think everybody's going to be like, Raw's going to lose a major superstar. And yes, I love The Miz. He is a major superstar, but it's not the person that everybody's going to think. That for some reason, the first thing that struck into my head was, okay, that's how they get Cody over to SmackDown to face Roman for the title.
Too early.
And then exactly what I thought. Way too early. What does he do over there for all these months until he gets to get that shot at Roman?
And a really pissed off Drew McIntyre just shouted out his name as a problem on Raw. So that's where we're going with Cody, hopefully. So
that's what I think too.
It ain't Cody. Sorry, Nick.
And so that's why I think it's going to be something like it's going to be like The Miz, like, and it's okay.
You know what?
All right.
I'm fine.
I don't care either way. Look, wherever The Miz goes, he's going to be entertaining. That LA Knight segment was great. When The Miz,
he's been fantastic with LA Knight for sure.
Yeah, when The Miz is on, he's on, and like those like when he wants to put you over, you can see it. He put LA Knight completely on the map. He was like, all right, this guy's over. Let's get him over even bigger. And they did. They battled on the mic. They did a great job. I just have a feeling that for some reason, once I realized it wasn't Cody, the first name that jumped into my head was like, why don't you just be The Miz?
Oh man! Just to get this in real quick, it's random, but it's cool. The clip of everyone calm you see as a meme was my reaction to Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. for Wrestle Dream. I mean, I'll get to that, I guess, in a little bit more, but I'm with you. But that's me.
Same.
That's me personally.
Yeah. Same.
Zack Sabre Jr. is awesome. Bryan Danielson is awesome at what they do.
It's the dream match right there. Like Wrestle Dream is the proper name for that match to happen because it's a literal. It's like the dream match that we've all wanted to see and never thought we'd ever going to be able to get to see. I'm so glad it's actually going to happen.
So you think it's one of those? Who do you want it to be?
It's rough. Like, you know, there's like in a way, I kind of want it almost to be like Drew, but then I don't want it to be Drew because
he just left there. That was bad for him.
I know, but I feel like he's already kind of lost in the shuffle. You know, I'd like it to actually. So, and this is the thing. It's everybody who I think of that I would think like, oh, it would be a. That's why I don't think it makes sense. I was gonna say KO, but where does he go? Back to facing Roman again? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like
the KO one's interesting because I was chatting with somebody and they brought up a good that's a great way to stall Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens if you're going to do it at WrestleMania, which I've been pushing for forever now. Even though it did happen a few years ago, I want a major storyline feud going into WrestleMania. And if you're to do that, the reason they're breaking up is Jay. 100% at this point. There's no way it's not Jay. How do you piss Kevin Owens off but stall the problem? You send KO over to SmackDown so they're on two different shows. And now they can't bounce between shows because they're not tag champs anymore, so their interactions become non-existent. KO feels like, hey, because of your boy, because of your boy, I got shipped away from you. And you were just cool with it. And then there's your breakup. And so Kevin Owens, I'm not mad at it, honestly. After I talked, when he first said it, I was like, that's stupid. But then I was like, you know what? No, that actually makes a lot of sense. That'd actually be cool.
And remember, it's only booking these guys up until we get to WrestleMania. So the holdover and the layover for whatever stories he'd do over there, that doesn't necessarily mean he'd have to immediately go over to Roman. That's just my thing is that, like, how do you put Kevin Owens back on the show with the Bloodline and just not put him with the Bloodline? I have a feeling that's what inevitably they're going to go with. But
that would suck to put him back in that.
Yeah.
And he also was very adamant about being like, I'm done with the Bloodline. I'm done with them.
Right.
So that actually fixes that problem. He could just go over there and be like, no, I don't want anything to do with them. I said I was done with them, and now he's going about his life. So,
yeah, I'd be interested to see if it's maybe, and I can't even think of anybody that it would make sense with, like a major female star, maybe, going over there, maybe like Liv Morgan going to SmackDown or something might be better. I can't pinpoint who I would really want to move over. I feel like everybody that's on Raw is kind of doing what. If they're on TV, they're kind of doing pretty well in what they're doing.
Yeah. Man, I hate that who I think it is. I just found a flaw in it. So I don't think it's who it is anymore. But it wouldn't surprise me, I'll put it that way, if it's Trish Stratus. Because she just finished up the thing with Becky Lynch. And I know she still has the ordeal with Zoe Stark, but that could just be something that, Zoe Stark knocked me out, and that's the end of that. I don't want nothing to do with her, and then moves on. You move her over to SmackDown, you prevent that from being an issue, and it gives her someone else to feud with. I don't know who she'd feud with over there, because we already did Charlotte. Bailey. I don't think she's feuded with Bailey.
Yeah, I can see her doing something with damage control. I mean, if she turns, especially if she goes over there maybe as, and turns babyface again, and then, or comes out as maybe she's still like a tweener and then gets, talked to by damage control and then, gets into something like that. I'd like to see that. And then they can inevitably do at the Royal Rumble this year, do the inevitable Zoe Stark and Trish Stratus in the ring at the same time at the Rumble. And, maybe she eliminates her to a big pop because it looks like Zoe's going to go heel and team with Shayna Baszler after this. So that actually wouldn't be a bad idea. Actually, Trish is actually a really good pick.
So that's my think who it is. Who I want it to be is Dominic Mysterio.
Of course.
I know the thing with Judgment Day is working so well, but damn it, I put something into the universe and I want it to happen. So I want him to go over there and I want him to find a way to kick Ray out and take over the LWO. And that's what I want to happen with Dom. And so that's my want. I don't care how crazy and ludicrous it sounds, everybody. It's what I want. And if I get it, we'll be super, super, super happy about it. So
the only flaw I see in that, and I brought this up the last time, is just that means that he gets separated from Rhea. And I don't want to see it because now the interesting thing is that Judgment Day can be on SmackDown all they want because Finn and Damian Priest are both tag champs. They can still be there. And then it would be interesting to see if Dom's the guy who gets traded. Once they lose those tag titles, now Dom's like, oh no, I'm legit all alone. Like, that's it. There's nobody else. They can't come over there anymore. Like, so that would be a really fun kind of story.
I got you with it, though. Temple plays, just so you know, I'm not ignoring you. I'll get to it as soon as we're done with this topic, man. I just want to get that in there for you. So Dom goes over there, and then he doesn't have Rhea. He can still hang out with the boys. And you could literally just do hey, tell Dom this, tell Rhea this, or tell Mommy this. He doesn't call Rhea. You can just have that. That's how they communicate. Like, so you see like the distance happening on screen. And then eventually Dom grows apart because Rhea's got to come out of this as the baby face of the situation. Well, hands down, 100%.
Of course.
So Dom is gonna, like I said in my little thing, he's gonna find himself a new little mommy over on SmackDown. And then guess what? That could be a setup to a WrestleMania match for Rhea Ripley with a huge storyline implied with it. So it's like, I think it could work. And again, it lets you see if Dom has really taken on as much as they say he is. All right, little birdie, go flap your wings kind of on your own. Let's see what you got.
Yep.
So that's what I want. I want it to be Dom.
And it would be cool if...
I'm not mad, because I do love him in Judgment Day, and Judgment Day is amazing. I love it so much, so I wouldn't be mad if he didn't go, but I do want him.
How cool would it be if, like, they walking around like backstage at, let's just say, Royal Rumble. You see Dom, and he's got Zelina, and the rest of Legado del Fantasma, the LWO, with him. And then they turn a corner, and there's Rhea with Priest, Balor, and JD. And they're all just, have like this little face off, and it's like, oh, we see you did pretty good for yourself, huh? And he's like, look, it seems like you guys are doing good for yourselves over there too. And they're still totally cool, no heat whatsoever. Everybody's just, all, it would be such a fun segment to see, like, hey, look, our little boy, is grown up, and now look, he's a leader of his own group.
So Shayna Baszler deserves better than being in these random ass tag teams she's been in. She needs a singles run. I want the NXT version of Baszler. So here's what I think. I think we are getting the NXT version of Baszler now, as much as we're going to ever get. But I don't mind the tag team with Zoe because it makes sense. They both are portraying themselves as badasses, and it's not like it's going to happen just like they're going to throw them together. We're going to see a natural progression into them becoming a tag team, which I think, again, they put effort into the women's tag team division. The problem is that it's legit seems cursed at this point, because every time they start to get the ball rolling, injury. You got to take a few steps back. They get it going, take a few steps back. So it's like, so I like that they continue to try, and I would not be mad at Shayna and Zoe Stark just beating the piss out of everybody that steps up to him, because that's what would happen. And at the end, you get a nice feud to go to, and Shayna gets to be portrayed as that badass. So I'm not mad at this.
And I also just thought about this. Imagine their finish: Z360 into Shayna, putting her into the sleeper.
Yeah.
Come on.
She's out. Yeah, I like it. Why do most of the IWC want Cody to finish the story? I don't. Why? Because you have the most over guy in that company named LA Knight, and he should be the one to take the title off Roman. Yeah. Hey, I'm literally dressed as the guy. I'm not hating on LA Knight, but I'll get to it more. You can still do Cody though. WrestleMania 40, Roman versus LA Knight versus Cody. LA Knight wins the WWE Championship. Cody turns heel, and we get Cody versus LA Knight program. Here's the problem with that: Cody will not go heel. He is looking to be the next John Cena face of that company, so he is not going to jeopardize that in any way by getting people to boo him. They want him to finish a story, and I'll tell you why I want him to finish a story. Albert can tell you why he wants to, if he does want him to, and that's all we can really do. But after watching that documentary and seeing the story, which I've said from the beginning why he shouldn't have won this year, is because too many people just didn't see that story. Some people knew it, most of them didn't, and even more people didn't see it. Now people have seen the story, and I'm like, you know what, dude? For him to take this journey, he literally bet on himself. He's such a damn good dude that I want him to finish the story. I want him to get what I feel like he deserves, and he deserves the win at WrestleMania. That's why I want him to finish the story. Albert, if you do, if you don't, go ahead.
Oh, I do. And Temple, you just said something now. This Cody babyface run is forced. It's not though. It's not, because Cody coming out when he the first time at WrestleMania and getting that big of a pop was a WrestleMania sized pop, because there was a lot of people in that stadium who knew exactly who Cody was, and a lot of people knew who was going to be there regardless. That was the biggest rumor in pro wrestling, and a lot of those people are very smart fans. You don't get very many casual fans spending that much money on WrestleMania tickets.
Yeah. You're the crop, baby.
Right. But then if you notice, as they went to every single town, that whoa in Cody's song got louder and louder. Then people started singing all the words, and now you're in the smallest towns in the United States, and they're singing every word to Cody's song, and they're louder on the whoa in the middle of the song, and they know exactly what Cody's going to say. They pop on every little thing. It's not forced at all. He is killing it. It was the right move for him to lose at WrestleMania this past year. I didn't think so in the first place. I thought I was with everybody else, and I was like, this is it. Cody ends it. We get it. And now that I've seen that he didn't do it, bravo. Best thing you guys could have done. But now it makes total sense. The reason why Cody lost was because Roman had his family around him. Roman doesn't have a family around him anymore, and this is the perfect time for that empire to crumble. And Cody's the right person to do it. Yes, LA Knight is over right now. I love LA Knight. I've loved LA Knight since he was Eli Drake. All right, this isn't something new here, you know. Exactly. Dummy. Yeah. I mean, that's I know it's not like I don't know where this is coming from. I'm not like some noob here. I love LA Knight, but Cody is so over right now, and he's got every single thing in the world to make him the next big star. LA Knight could be over for the next 2-3 years, and he could fade out. We've seen it happen to people. Bad booking, a poor time for an injury, something happens. Cody's not going anywhere. No. Cody is a top guy, and the only way he's going to get ever dragged down is by the idea of people saying, well, they're forcing him down our throats. If they forced him down your throats, they would have put the title on him this past year at WrestleMania. They didn't do that. They made him earn it. You can't say they forced him to do anything. He earned it.
And I just want to touch on this comment too. Cody's been in the review carpet. I'm not saying that there's not people who don't deserve it more than Cody. I am the spokesman for this because I preached and preached and preached until my gums were bleeding that Sami Zayn should have been the guy. I thought he deserved it way more than Cody does. But again, after seeing, I thought the whole Cody phenomenon would die down a little bit, and it hasn't. As he just said, like, it's just grown. It's kind of crazy. And in my girlfriend's line of work, she meets a lot of like new people, and she talks to them, and sometimes she meets some wrestling fans. And a majority of these people that she's talked to, they didn't really know who Cody was because they're newer fans, and they're like, he is our absolute favorite. They love him. Like, they love him. The families love him. And I just want to give a shout out to Kenny for your thoughts. Probably my favorite account on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it. Absolutely hilarious. Awesome dude. He brought up a thing where Cody Rhodes is like, we have two baby faces that are like complete opposites, but are so awesome. And we have LA Knight, who is that guy that reminds us of the Attitude Era. And the more I see him, the more I buy into that, because I don't see crowds that energized for as long as they are for anyone else. Like, they are just like, it's like watching an old episode of Raw with the way they're reacting to LA Knight, and it's awesome. And that's kind of the older crowd that's like, yeah, this is fucking fun, this is awesome. Then you have Cody Rhodes, who's literally the polar opposite. He's the cookie cutter guy that, again, seems like he's being forced down our throats because of it. Just, he's so generic looking, but he's such an amazing dude, and the families eat it up. Like, they eat it up, and that's why he's not going nowhere, because his fans are young. They're going to be growing with him. He is in position. He's in a perfect position to be the John Cena going forward. And again, he has earned it, just in a completely different way. So that's my take. I wasn't that far away from what your thoughts are right now, Temple Plays, a few months ago. I've just grown to kind of be like, no, I was wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. That's how I felt like after a while.
And we can't say that Cody's been in WWE for a cup of coffee. He was there before. He grew up in the WWE. That's where he was, that's where he cut his chops. Yes, he left. And yes, to Jimmy's point, there are a lot of newer fans around that are just getting themselves introduced to Cody. But all those fans seem to be buying what Cody's selling. And that's a bit different, because if this was, look, Jimmy and I are of the same age. We were both around when Cena came into his own. Cena was organically one of the most over guys on the roster. He starts rapping, all of a sudden, everybody's behind this guy. Everybody's like, this is the next big thing. He's getting the biggest pops. He's over. He doesn't change a thing about himself. And then all of a sudden, everybody slowly but surely starts with the force down our throat. Can't stand him anymore. And I was one of them. I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't. I was one of them. I turned my back on him.
That man's my goat, bro.
I respect John Cena so much now, and that's the thing. I think that we're now of a certain age where we're older and we see it from a different perspective. We aren't young, where I think, at that point, we're rooting for the underdog, because at that time, when we're of that age, we are the underdogs. We're just getting into the workforce. We're just getting out of college. Everything's competitive. We're scrapping, right? We're trying to come up, and we see this guy like John Cena looks like he's been handed to everything, and to us that just doesn't sit well. And Temple, if you're of that age right now, it's going to totally make sense in like a couple of years with Cody, where you're going to be like, I get why the young kids were into him. I get why, the adults were into him. But I can see why, the teens might not be, because, yeah, it looks like he came in and just cut the line, right? Out of nowhere, no one knows who he is, and boom, he's in main events, wrestling Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, main eventing Raw almost every week in the biggest storylines, going against Roman. It looks like it. It does. It totally does. I get it from a lot of people's perspective. But I think Cody's doing a good enough job in making people believers in him so that none of that stuff matters.
I'll tell you what. This is an interesting thing that just popped into my head. If this was AEW booking it, Cody Rhodes would have won the title at WrestleMania 39, because they incorporate the history and stuff that a lot of the fans that watch WWE inside the WWE universe don't see. So they need more time to tell the story, and again, to make sure people are going to stay behind this person. The same thing they did with LA Knight there for a long time. Slowly ease this thing in so we're not putting all our eggs in one basket. That would be foolish. And if they would have done that with Cody at WrestleMania 39, and then, 2 months later they turn on him like they have in the past, that would have been a huge mistake. They would have blown that tremendous Roman Reigns run on a guy who fizzled out a few months, which I thought was going to happen. Because it's like, where do you go from that? You show up, you conquer everything in a matter of a year, and then what's next? There's nothing for you to conquer anymore. He had to face adversity, and it's working out perfectly. Because to me, he hasn't gotten stale. I've actually grown to be a bigger fan of him during this time, which is the idea here. That's why they're waiting. So, man, I want him to win at WrestleMania 4. I've wanted it for a minute, but I want it now more than ever. So
yeah, same.
That's why I want him to finish the story. This real quick. You're damn right they weren't, Courtney. I saw the videos. And people hate that kid. They're all a bunch of bastards.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, and then we'll get to.
Just real quick. You know what? Let's move on. I don't even want to go there. Let's move on. Because you know what? You're staying away from the sheets. You're staying away from all the negativity. I don't even want to bring negativity up. Let's go into it. Let's go to Courtney.
I did see a few people saying it, and I'm like, nope, because I saw like 4 different videos of people, and it's like, why are people still believing this bullshit? That's crazy.
And it's every week that people are putting up videos of them being there live. And it's not even, look, if you don't want to believe fans, hey, those videos can be doctored. How about this? I'm a huge fan of Matt Cardona, who was formerly known as Zack Ryder. He does this little thing called the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. He was there the night that Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville won the tag titles. Listen to the podcast that week. That is a former WWE superstar, guy who doesn't work there at all. He said multiple times on the podcast, I don't even want to run into people backstage. I want to get in, see my girlfriend, my wife there. I'm sorry, they're married. Get in, see my wife, wrestle, and get out. He said it about WrestleMania. He said it about him being there at. He
flat out told them no when they asked to use his pool.
Exactly.
That's money in his pocket. He wanted nothing to do with it. So
this is a guy who no, he doesn't talk crap about WWE, but he doesn't have like very nice things to say about them. And he absolutely confirmed those boos for Dom are as loud as they are on TV, and as they are in the arena. And he compared it to Vicky Guerrero when they were out there, and he said it's even worse. He was like, I thought you couldn't hear anything when we were out there with Vicky. Dom is even worse.
And I just want to say, I've seen Dom, I think 4 times live. And each time I've seen him live since joining the Judgment Day. And each time it's been louder and louder every single time. So if you're someone who just watches on TV and you get like some kind of weird fascination with, I don't know, thinking they're lying about literally everything, shut up. If you haven't been to the show, I honestly don't think you should be talking about crowd reactions being piped in. Because, yeah, sometimes it's pretty obvious. Other times I've heard people say this, and I'm like, what are you talking about? No? This literally happened at shows I've been to. Like, they're piped in crowd noise there. And I'm like, nah, I was there. I didn't hear no piped in crowd noises. Well, you wouldn't. You're there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm hearing the live crowd give their reaction that I then saw again when I watched it back live. Like, that's such a weird thing for people to be hung up on when they're clearly wrong. There's video evidence of them being wrong. So it's like, what do you
Look,
do?
at the end of the day, it's this cultish, tribalist mindset of like, no way that Dom is getting that sort of reaction. The AEW fans have to be like, no, there's no way anybody can have more heat than anybody on our show. And it's the same thing as WWE fans picking on AEW because they're not selling out every arena that they're going into. And it's like, yeah, they're going into arenas way bigger than what they should be because they're going to try to sell every ticket that they could. They're not trying to sell that thing out, but what they are doing is instead of going to the 10,000 seat arena, 6 miles away, they're going to the 15,000 seat arena, and maybe they're selling 12. So like you don't know, and that's the big thing. And look, and this goes for everything because we're not going to talk about the CM Punk situation here, but this encompasses that situation too. You don't know what goes on backstage. You don't know the business of the business. You don't know what anybody or anything is saying back there. Whatever is being leaked and released is what most people want to be leaked and released. You're not getting a full story. You're getting fragments and segments from people you feel that you trust. Stop, take a breath, reevaluate yourself about how you're a wrestling fan, and remember to yourself, if you don't like the other show, you don't have to talk about it.
I'm going to let y'all know right now, I'm 2 weeks into this not doing dirt sheet bullshit and gassing up rumors and all that, and man, it is so more. I enjoy the shows a little bit more. I know that sounds crazy, but man, when you just constantly see shit, it kind of just makes its way over, and it's like, okay, well, let me just take a step back. Do the responsible thing. Something's bothering you. You remove it from your life, and then it fixes things. That's kind of how it works. And I did that, and I've been able to. Even the show we're about to talk about here in a minute, Collision. Last night's episode of Collision. To me, it wasn't a good episode of Collision, but I was still able to enjoy it more than I would have been able to a few weeks ago, because I'm not thinking about the drama that's wrapped up in that person, or the backstage rumors wrapped up around what is happening here, or spoiled about stupid stuff. It's like it's. I highly encourage it. Just stop feeding into the rumors. Like it's not why we watch wrestling. So from there we'll transition into Collision, because Albert here said he wanted to talk about Collision, so that's what we are about to do. I'll say I haven't been as caught up with it the last few weeks because I haven't been as invested. Unfortunately, I have been a little bit busy, so it's not like I'm sitting at home. I was doing things because it's Saturday, it's the weekend, and that's typically a busy time.
Touching grass.
Yeah, I'm out touching grass. I apologize to everybody for that. But when I'm home, I would make an effort to watch it, and I just wasn't really feeling that itch, I guess. Last night I did, and again, it wasn't a bad show. It just wasn't a good show either. I was able to enjoy some things. But Albert here, he would like to tell you what he thinks about it.
You know what? You brought up a great point. It wasn't a bad show, but it reminded me so much of Dynamite. And it
reminded me of Rampage, honestly.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's a good call.
Everything was completely obvious, and there was good wrestling, which Rampage tends to have, but nothing about what was happening other than Roderick Strong, who's doing phenomenal work right now, that I kind of cared about. I just didn't. Where's it all going? I don't know, and I don't really care at this point.
And that's been the big thing. The one thing that we've been talking about, and look, this is not, Albert's coming here to dump on AEW time, because you can go back into the archives of this show since I've started, because we were here when Collision started, and we have done nothing but talk about how much we've enjoyed Collision.
Best show of the week multiple times.
And there's been a lot of times we both agreed that was the case. And there's just the one thing that I loved about Collision was that everything built from the week before. Ricky Starks has been on a roll now for the past 2 months because of how he's been built up on Collision. The reason why Hobbs and Miro at the pay-per-view was awesome because it was Hobbs versus Miro. But the idea of them building that program and them building up these characters on TV has made it so that it's more interesting, and that's what they were doing with Collision, and that's why I said Collision this week reminded me of Dynamite, where it was just like, let's get some wrestlers on the show and let's let them wrestle, and it's like, cool, that's awesome. Can you give me a little bit more? Because
sorry to cut in, but it's
please.
Literally the difference between on Dynamite, the matches where I want this person to win because I like this person more than I like the other person. On Collision, I was choosing who I wanted to win other than CM Punk because I was more invested in their reasoning for getting revenge or the reason they wanted to beat that person to begin with. They're giving me reasons to be invested in why, as opposed to just, I like this person. And I know that sounds like such a small nitpick, but again, when I can get emotionally invested, that's everything to me. And I was literally just bragging about how WWE does it, and it's why, in my opinion, it's the better company because they're able to do that in a much more effective way. Collision was getting there, and that's why I praise it really every single week. I think there was only one episode where I watched it consistently where it wasn't the best show of the week because I was just that emotionally invested in it. And I get your Dynamite comparison because, again, it was just kind of like, here's some matches that are happening because we know the fans want to see them. And it's like, some do, others don't. And we were getting that, and now it was taken away from me. And I'm like, there's still some on there. I'm not saying they're not doing them at all. I'm not saying that at all. But Bullet Club Gold versus the Luchadors. Why? Like, I get people want to see it, but like, that had nothing to do with what was happening with Bullet Club Gold.
Right.
At all. Am I missing something there?
No. It was just...
that's my problem with it.
It was just there. And the same thing. Look, I love Mox. And, look, if someone's they're going to be bringing people over to this show to have to try to replace the guy that they centered this show around, it's going to be difficult. But Mox and Danielson are two guys that are a good start to get people, invested in that show. But the first opponent you're going to put him against is a guy who hasn't been relevant since he had one upset win over Chris Jericho and then disappeared from television. Give me something more. Come on, man. Anything more.
It was so... Yeah. I was wondering, I was like, why is Action Andretti facing Jon Moxley? Because I've seen him. Action Andretti's been pretty consistent on Collision in tag teams and trios. Like, so... He's been there, but it's like, what has he done as a singles guy, I guess, to get that shot? We used to brag, like they used to brag about having
the ranking system.
This is how we get, that's how it makes sense. Okay, well, then you got rid of him because you were kind of just altering the way you, or not altering, but kind of navigating things to do what you wanted them to do. And it was becoming so obvious that it just wasn't working anymore. So now you're just giving them random matches. And this is kind of a problem that people used to bitch about with WWE all the time. It's like, why is this person getting a title shot? They haven't done anything in forever and forever and forever. And then the excuse I would always see was, well, when they've shown that they're competitive with, and it's just, it's a weird thing to try and use as a reason as to why Action Andretti should be getting that match. Because he don't even win his trios matches that I've been watching. So if he ain't winning those, why is he getting a singles title match? That doesn't make sense to me.
And I get it. It's an open challenge. But that, to me, means that, okay, if there's an open challenge for a belt, it can't just be he who comes first. There's got to be like 10 guys who come at a time, and then they have to be picked. Because you can't sit there and say, like, oh, it's an open challenge, and Action Andretti's the fastest guy in the company, so if he gets to the B line and races out there first to, tag on Moxley's door to say, hey, I was here first, I get your title shot, then he should get the title shot every week, right? Like, you know what I mean? There's no logic to it.
Question for this. Did they announce it was Moxley versus Andretti before the show?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
So then it's not an open challenge. And
but they build it as an open challenge. That's what I'm saying.
They do it all the time, and I'm like, how is this an open challenge? Now, I don't know, because I know the one time they did it with Chris Statlander, she did a video, and then someone responded. I saw it. I accept it. People are a little confused, but whatever. If they keep up with it online, they're going to know what's happening. And I saw it, and I was like, okay, that's good enough for me. They might even show it on the show to kind of give people an idea. But they always do it where it's like an open challenge, but here's the person that accepts the open challenge already. So It's not an open challenge then. It was an open contract backstage somewhere, and then someone came up and signed it, and everything's been made official.
Right.
So, and again, it don't bother me. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just letting it be known like that's kind of how it comes across. But Jon Moxley versus Action Andretti, there's nothing about that match that I'm like wanting to tune in for. And I'm sorry, it's nothing against John, because I love Jon Moxley. And Action Andretti, I don't care for him. I don't think he's horrible. He's really talented, but he's done nothing to make me care that or think he should be in that position. I know Jon Moxley's going to win. I know Action Andretti's going to do a bunch of fancy flips and nonsense and all that other stuff. I know that's what's going to happen, so I don't need to watch it. The only time I accept someone who doesn't make sense as far as like what they've been doing, like losing all the time, if I just hit some stuff. Good thing didn't go off. Like if you're gonna get Ishii showing up in because I know that's gonna be a badass brawl, and I know it sounds picky, but I don't care. I accept Ishii because he's proven to be someone who should be taken seriously. Action Andretti.
That's the thing. Action Andretti's not there. With that talented of a roster, you're telling me that they're trying to turn a corner with this program to keep the people who are actively watching invested, and that's the best idea you came up with. You the idea of it being like Rampage, and that's what it made me feel like. It felt unimportant. And that's the thing. Collision has always felt important. And this was the first week where I was like, it didn't matter if I watched the show or not. I didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
And that has never been the case for Collision.
I will point out that I think Samoa Joe gave Penta the best match I've ever watched Penta have, and that's personal preference. I know Penta's amazing, but I don't like the way he wrestles. I'll just put it that way. He's horrible selling. He goes too fast all the time. He's really phenomenal. He's like the Young Bucks in that he does phenomenal things. It's just not my cup of tea. But Samoa Joe made him slow his ass down last night, and I loved what I saw. So I will give Penta his one flower there. You gave me a match I enjoyed. I'm not gonna complain about. And the match itself, I really enjoyed it. It was one of my favorite matches from the week. So it wasn't that Collision was crap, but if I didn't watch it, I don't feel like I missed anything.
Exactly. And that's been the exact opposite of what Collision's been.
I could have just looked up and saw that Roger Shaw and Samoa Joe won, which I already thought was going to happen to begin with. So it was like, yeah, I watched it because I had nothing to do.
And
here's around. It's like I'm watching kids tonight. I got nothing to do.
Here's the other thing, and this goes out. This is a shout out to the wrestling on the show is the most important thing on a pro wrestling show crowd. There is so much good wrestling out there every single week that, you know what? If I miss 3 or 4 really good matches, it doesn't bother me too much. But if I miss something that was,
yeah.
But if I miss something that was, like story-wise, like I missed something in the Bloodline, I got to go back and watch that. That's important. Yeah. I need to see that. And that's the thing. Matches are great. Gunther versus, Chad Gable was our favorite moment of the week, but that's because that match was built up over the past month.
It didn't matter that the match itself didn't deliver on like a 5-star, 10-star caliber or whatever you're talking about as far as what they were doing in the ring, even though they did really a phenomenal job in the ring. I'm not downplaying it, but they didn't have to put on
a match in my book, but I mean,
yeah, they didn't have to put on a 5.5-star 25-minute marathon banger with every move in the book thrown out there to get a match of that quality. That's what I'm looking at with it, and that's why, again, it's just better to me. But God, I was about to bring up something else there. I lost it.
Hate when that happens.
Yeah. Okay, so last year, I know it happened right around time Triple H just kind of took over whatever the case is. I don't know. I don't care anymore. They're giving me a good show. That's all I care about. When he took over, we kind of saw like a shift in the, what do we call it, between the AEW and WWE, where AEW was doing like really good shows and WWE fans were like, oh, well, we're better. But then all of a sudden the shift happened and WWE started kind of knocking things out of the park. And AEW was like, well, we're just 4 years old or whatever their excuse was at the time. Do you think that plays into the fact that right now, as we've been saying for a while, we got more wrestling than we ever have before at our fingertips? So what AEW relied on isn't so bingo on the money for them anymore, because, well, if I miss some good matches, I saw 5 of them already when I watched whatever the promotions were watching. Because they have viewers, they're still getting a decent audience. I'm not shitting on their audience, but they have lost viewers. That's
I think it's where we're at. Look, you can sit there and talk about Wembley all you want, because Wembley was amazing. And going to Wembley and, being able to, basically sell out one of the biggest stadiums in the world is an incredible thing. But then when you're coming home and you're barely able to sell enough tickets, to sustain your at-home business, you're seeing that there's something wrong. And it's because they're oversaturating markets. It's a lot of business stuff that's going on. But at the end of the day, if you're not worried about the business and you're just worried about, the shows themselves, you just want the content of the wrestling shows to be the way that you want them. At the end of the day, if I miss Rampage every week, which I don't remember the last Rampage I watched, I know that there's good matches on Rampage, but I also know that I got 2 hours of really good matches on Dynamite and 2 hours of really good matches on Collision. So, and then
if you're watching Impact, or you're watching New Japan, or you're watching any of those Progress or MLW, like there's Ring of Honor, there's so many. It's a lot.
I have to admit that Gable and Gunther was a good match this week. You're getting good wrestling every single week. What is keeping me there? And that's the problem. We don't have things that are keeping people there. There are things. Look, I'm not saying that AEW is not doing anything. Look, Adam Cole and MJF absolutely is a good start there. Orange Cassidy's AEW International Championship run has been phenomenal. I mean, everything that they've been doing with Ricky Starks over the past couple of months. There's a lot of good FTR versus the Young Bucks. Again, matches that we've been wanting to see for a while. There's things that keep you invested and you want to be there, but there's nothing that, makes you sit there and go, this is appointment television. I need to watch this every single week. WWE has been giving us that again, and they've been doing it consistently. The old school thought and philosophy before Triple H took over was, who cares about weekly television? Just watch the pay-per-views. They're always going to be good. WWE pay-per-views haven't been bad. They usually deliver. That's kind of where I am at with AEW right now. I don't need to watch the TV shows every week. Their pay-per-views are going to be great.
Like I said last week, that he's done 13 PLEs. I've enjoyed all 13 of them. There's not one that I watched and that I could go back and watch any of them, and they'd be enjoyable to me. And I can't remember the last time we've had that string of successful pay-per-views like that. Just to reiterate what I was saying with that, I know they haven't lost a crazy amount of viewers, but if you notice, there seems to be like a fluctuation in which they'll go from like 950 to like low 800s, like 817, things like that. It doesn't happen often, but it does bounce down there. And I think those are the times where you're looking at situations where it's like, yeah, I've seen a lot of great wrestling this week. Let me see what AEW is giving me, because they give you the entire card before the night comes. You can look at and be like, okay, yeah, nothing about that thinks that's going to be better than what I've already seen, and I got things to do. So whether that's happening, I don't know, but I can see that happening for sure. And with WWE, to be fair, you could miss out some things and then you'll just catch the recaps. But that's why they do the recaps. So that's why I enjoy the recaps. So if I do happen to miss something, I will get caught up. AEW doesn't do that as much. They've been getting better. Give them that. I know it sounds like we're shitting on AEW. I watch it every week. I watch Dynamite and Rampage literally every week. So I don't hate them. I just want them to be better. And if the current business model they run is okay with what they're doing, I go ahead with it. I'm not telling them what to do with themselves. It's their money, their business. Do it. I'm not saying it all. It's just the conversation gets brought up and we get to talking and we're just giving our opinions on it. So no, I don't want it to go out of business. I want it to stay around because I enjoy it.
Please stay around. It's employing some of my favorite wrestlers in the world right now. Like, I don't want to be in a world where I don't get to see MJF and Ricky Starks on my television, every week. Like,
Well, I wanted to get to Ricky Starks. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was it.
That's what I forgot.
Let's get into Ricky Starks. I always want to talk about Ricky Starks.
Okay, so this was the biggest. I'm gonna bring him up because it's part of what's happened here. But CM Punk, I wasn't gonna talk about the CM Punk stuff because I don't want to. I already know people hate him and they're gonna talk shit. Whatever, go about your life. I don't care. I'm not mad that he's gone. I got to experience him for another year and a half, which is a year and a half. I didn't think I was ever gonna get again, and it was awesome. I saw him become a champion again. I saw him put on a feud that I could look at as being a top 3 in my opinion, just for my preference with MJF. It was phenomenal. I loved every second of it. I got to see him live twice, which I never got a chance to do before. So that's awesome. And he got to do a match with Samoa Joe at Wembley. I can't be mad that he's gone and all that other stuff. But Ricky Starks was on the roll of his career because of CM Punk. And when CM Punk went bye-bye, I've seen what they've done with Ricky Starks' momentum in the past. And I was pissed. I was like, you cannot do this to Ricky again. Because that man is one of the most kindest, genuine people I've ever met. And to see him just get shit on constantly was, don't do it to me 3 times. So thank you, Bryan Danielson, for stepping in and keeping the momentum going. Because, oh, man, I was about to get mad about that. Because Ricky Starks is absolute. He's phenomenal. And it blows my mind they've dropped the ball twice, or more than twice, but
more than twice.
Memory twice back to back. And we're like, oh, so yeah. Thank you, Bryan Danielson.
I mean, I think I said this when MJF first won the championship on this show. I think we talked about way too far in advance booking. Who do you want to see them take the championship off of him? And I said Ricky Starks. That's been my pick since the beginning. I love myself some Ricky Starks, and the same here. Look. I don't love everything about AEW. I don't want AEW to go anywhere. I love that AEW exists. I love that it's extra wrestling that I get to watch whenever I want to. I record every episode. Sometimes I miss some Dynamite. Sometimes, in these past couple of weeks, I've actually been doing things on the weekends. I won't watch Collision until the middle of the week sometimes. But I catch up. I like AEW. And if I don't like certain things, you know what? There's a fast forward button. And I just do it. And it's the same thing with WWE. I haven't done it recently, but man, that was a good point, during WWE time, during some of those really hard to watch Raws where, man, I watch that with my fast forward button blazing. I watch Raw live every week now.
As my buddy Andy used to say, Raw was so bad, he watched my recap just so he knew what to watch. He said it helped him. He said he's watching that shit so you don't have to. Yeah, it ain't that way anymore. But yeah.
Sure, though.
I wasn't sure we were going with the Dynamite thing.
Oh no, I'm just saying, At the end of the day, it's
we were talking about Ricky. That was what it was. It was Ricky.
Yes.
My bad.
Yeah.
My bad. So,
but that's the thing. Look, when it comes to it, if they drop the ball with this guy so many times, they've ruined his momentum so many times. They've done it with countless other people. I mean, off the top of my head, Wardlow is the first guy that always jumps out into my mind. They did it with Lance Archer, who was huge over for a number of weeks and months. When he first came out with Jake, and then all of a sudden just disappeared. And it's like there's so many guys. Brian Cage had a lot of momentum in the early days of AEW, and
he beat Hangman Page in a freaking pay-per-view, and went
nowhere, and then lost to Starks. It was it's maddening, and that's my problem with AEW. If AEW was looked at in the same vein as the way WWE was dissected by wrestling fans back in the day when there was no other wrestling show around. That's why WWE got ripped apart all the time. There was just nothing else to talk about. So you watched every single thing and you overanalyze everything. If you do it with AEW, man, there's a lot of stuff that isn't going to hold up in a lot of those same wrestling fans' minds.
And just to touch back on when you picked Ricky Starks, I remember this because I was like, my problem with that is I don't think they have proven that they can get him to a place where I would have bought it. Had Ricky Starks wrestled CM Punk last week at All Out and beat him like I think he would have, I would have bought Ricky Starks going over and taking MJF's title because he would have had the real one, and that's not why. But CM Punk did such a phenomenal job of getting Ricky Starks to that level. So anybody's like, you didn't elevate anybody. Shut your fucking mouth because he did. And man, yeah, I would have bought Ricky there. So
Look, I'm gonna put you. Look, I'm gonna put it to everybody this way. Say what you want. I don't even care. You can have your opinions. You can have whatever you want to say about Punk and everything he did backstage. There is one thing that is absolutely an undeniable fact, that everything he has done on television has been gold. There's been nothing that he's done that has not been good business. Even when he was being a dick, he was still doing good business.
The only thing that people ever complained about was that squash match, and then he came out and even told everybody, "Yeah, I thought it was stupid too. I just did it because they told me to." So the man put on great television, obviously, because he was running things over in Collision, and Collision was a fantastic show. AW should learn from Impact how to make story-driven matches. Collision was doing that on a week-to-week basis, and then
yes, they were.
It's just like AW. I wouldn't say it's that bad. Because Dark and Elevation is just nothing but squash matches, but yeah, I get the sentiment though, is that it's much like Dynamite, like Albert said, and Rampage, like I said. But if you have nothing else, we can draw this thing on out of here.
I would say it's about.
Yeah, she was agreeing with you. So with that said, tell them where they can find you.
So you can find me on YouTube on this at the Slam Session, because I can speak today. At the Slam Sessions, I actually have a video right now throughout this entire process. I finished editing right before we went live, so it'll be uploaded maybe either today or tomorrow. And when I say tomorrow, it means maybe a little bit after midnight, depending on how long it takes.
Man, I was just going through the banners here when I put that up for you. And just, again, to reiterate how much we loved AEW Collision, I had a banner that was pre-made in here because I kept bringing it up because we kept talking about it so much. And I just had to delete it because I know we ain't getting back there anytime soon.
Doesn't look good. I hope they prove me wrong.
Yeah. I love it when people prove me wrong. I live for
Same here.
But with that, you will find me here on this channel, this show, every Sunday, as long as we're here. Sometimes we're not, but that's touching grass. Life gets in the way. I would just like to say, here we go. Thank you, Nick. Thank you for watching, bud. Thank you, everybody that watches. Thank you, everybody that supports us. Thank you, Albert, for being part of the show. Thank you, Tidy, for being part of the show. I know you're not here now.
Tidy.
You're doing your thing, and I've got no problem with people living their lives. We're all here to have a good time. So with that, I will say, as always, please, everybody, don't forget to just enjoy wrestling, because that's why we watch it. So yeah,
Yeah,
just enjoy wrestling. Yeah.